Well, everyone, welcome to another episode of Through Your Looking Glass. I am, of course, your host, Patrick Comer. And today we have something special, something new. In fact, we have guinea pigs because for the first time in the history of this entire show, we have Lucid employees involved in the entire process. So, with that, I'd like to introduce Kevin Evers and Laura Manning to the show. Welcome, you guys.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Well, I just want to say thank you, first of all, for saying yes. Maybe you had to. I'm not sure exactly how that went down, but I'm just excited that you're here today so we can talk about Lucid and media measurement.
Well, I wouldn't say we were pressed into the British Navy, so to speak, but we are very happy to be here, and we did have the option of saying no, and we wholeheartedly said yes.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Well, I have to say I'm excited to talk about our media measurement business because it's been growing so rapidly, and it's been a big area of investment for Lucid over the past couple of years. And we've seen it scale so quickly, both in terms of size, but also in terms of partnerships and capabilities, especially in the past 18 months or so. It's been like the surprise win of COVID. And so I really wanted to bring the leaders of our team, both in terms of sales, smarts, and capability to really tell us what's going on, why is Lucid's performance in this area really scaling quickly, and what are we doing differently in a very rapidly changing overall marketplace. So welcome. I'd love to hear a little bit more how you got here, like your journey maybe to Lucid, but also into the media measurement side of our business. So Kevin, why don't you start us off with your Lucid and media measurement journey?
Okay, I'll go back in time a bit. I love talking about me, so this is the best part of the show for myself. So I took the weirdest and strangest journey into the research industry and media measurement. So I was in the military for 6 years. When I got out, I had to finish my degree. I had a day job as a carpenter and went to school at night to finish my degree. And coming on graduation, it was time to start interviewing at places and get ready, but I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. And on a random day, a nail gun misfired and nailed these two fingers together right here. When I got home from the work site that day, didn't go through the bone, but it was painful. I got home that day because I was considering construction, like construction management. I was considering like maybe that's what I want to do in my life. And on the answering machine, a friend of mine, my wife's best friend's husband, worked at Survey Sampling International. He said, "Hey, we're hiring, and if you get a job in the last 3 months, I'll give you half of the bonus I get for you coming on board." And that is literally how I entered into research. I had a general business degree. I didn't really have any kind of understanding of what marketing research was. So started Survey Sampling. I actually met you through there, not officially, Patrick, but I was working on one of your accounts, the old OTX days, right? And yeah, 3 years of that. And I realized I was delivering, a very important piece of marketing research, but I didn't know what was happening after I delivered that human respondent to a survey. And so curiosity got the better of me, and I moved on to a full-service market research company. And I spent the next 5 years doing all kinds of really cool custom primary research, customer segmentations. I was doing in-person taste tests, wearing a lab coat, like all that stuff around the country. It was really interesting. And at the same time, that organization was building out a media measurement practice. It had been a part of the business, and then it was a standalone part of the business that we were all getting, acclimated with, and I started learning it. And, all of the things I'd learned in custom primary market research set me up very well for media measurement. And so as it happens in this industry, my company was bought by another company. I received a lovely golden parachute and started consulting. And so when I got to an old colleague, an old friend, an old client out on the West Coast of an agency, she said, "I don't care what you're selling right now. I don't care what you're talking about from your consultation gig, but I want to know what's new in media measurement." And I had to admit to her that I was somewhat disillusioned by it. I walked away from it for a number of reasons. One of them was when you start out in custom primary research, you have largest data set you can possibly deal with, right? You're getting thousands of completed interviews, and the data science behind that is very powerful. And you can really tell a good story to a client. The dark old days of media measurement, you'd maybe get 30 completed interviews of someone who's been exposed to a campaign, and then data scientists would weight data. And then you tell a brand to go make a major decision about their marketing and their advertising based on a very limited number of actual data points. And so I said to her, "I'm disillusioned, but I'll look into it for you." When I started asking around, I found out about this little company called Federated Sample. And I had known about you guys. I was using you at the time in a previous life to fuel a creative testing program. and you were able to turn around thousands of complete interviews, your organization in 2 days, 48 hours, and that was just unheard of in the industry at the time. And so that conversation was very intriguing when I called up your team, and I learned that you had figured out a way to take this massive engine you had built for respondent sampling and link it in real time to media exposure. And that was a game changer for me, because that actually, all of the things that I couldn't wash off at night from having a lack of data in a media measurement, campaign measurement kind of a situation, it was nullified. And this was bringing scale, real-time scale to an industry that was the biggest problem, I thought. And so that conversation, that info gathering conversation I had, led to, hey, why don't you hire me and I'll come build this for you? And also, why don't you come here and help us build it? So that's how I got into media measurement. That was my journey from media measurement into Lucid.
Well, I got to say, I've also nailed parts of my body together when I was a carpenter. So I understand that moment when it was a staple, not a nail, but it's a special moment when the pneumatic gun does that, right?
Yeah.
It can change lives. It can change, yeah, for sure.
And a realization that I don't think I want to be a carpenter for the rest of my life. And I came home and on the old school answering machine on my house phone, they were a research company, we're hiring. I was like, that sounds really good right now. So yeah, it's a very interesting journey for me to make, sure.
And at some point there was, I think it was 2015, where we said, why don't you come build this with us? Right? Was that sounds like the right year.
Yeah. So early 2015, that was the Federated Samples / Lucid's discovery of that matching exposure data via third-party pixel on advertising back to that, giant respondent platform that you had built. And so fast forward 5 or 6 months is when I joined after you built that pixel, and it was so new and raw and amazing, because what was exciting for me is that there was people in this building who kind of knew what they had built, but I don't think they understood the gravity of it. The sheer scale of what you could do.
I had no idea what we built at that time, or what the possibility was.
But I certainly did, because I recognized what had been the problems for me throughout my journey throughout media measurement, and it had always been, the somewhat disappointing results of not being able to match enough actual humans in survey form who had been exposed to a campaign. And so it was very exciting. It's been a while. I'm sure we'll go through the Lucid journey here shortly together, but it's been a really crazy ride ever since.
Well, the evolution of media measurement at Lucid was really the result of an idea we had when we founded the company, that if we had enough scale, as you said, around respondents, that we'd be able to use that scale to build new products and services that were only possible because that scale had been created. And when we started the company in 2010, we had no idea that media measurement would be the first real growth product to come off that scale that had nothing to do with necessarily about the exchange of respondents into various types of surveys. It was a brand new product and a brand new vertical for us. And so I was one of those people that was learning on the fly when you came in to figure out what the opportunity really was. We built this matching capability of exposures back to the respondent profiles, but what it was actually going to be used for and how important it could actually be to the business was still brand new. Now, Laura, your background is different. I don't think you've ever I could be wrong. I don't know if you've ever nailed your fingers together, but how'd you get to Lucid into this media measurement thing?
Very little manual labor over here. I'll be the first to admit, no carpentry. So I started at Lucid in 2014. We were then Federated Sample. I think I was hire 46, maybe 47, tied with our Director of Project Success on the same start date. So I started out on the marketplace side doing white glove service on behalf of our customers. I think Kevin dabbled with buying from us at his former research shop, but we were really pulling all the levers on the back end to make the product go for our customers. So I started off in operations, got a really good understanding of the research space and our ecosystem, and most importantly, I think our marketplace. So I know kind of all the ins and outs. I always joke that I got my 10,000 hours of expertise in by like 2015. I've launched a survey at Jazz Fest, on Christmas Day, anywhere you could think of in the city of New Orleans to make it happen. So did that for probably a year and a half. And then in tandem, our team had been building out this proof thing, what we now know as audience or media measurement. And really, to Kevin's credit, they'd done a lot with really nothing. But there was no process. There was no rules. They hadn't figured out how they were going to pay suppliers or charge clients. Like there was a lot of gaps to be solved. So I moved over as kind of the first official operations hire to help streamline and build out some processes to get that off the ground. So I unfortunately, with the COP coming in, and Kevin and I were like this about adding some of the structure and rules to the to what was working really well for the team at the time. So I did that for probably 2 years in operations. And then Kevin, one night after dinner with the team, convinced me that I should really try sales. So then I moved over, started doing sales. And now these past 2 years or so has been really focused on what we're calling strategic partnerships, which is all the different types of data we can layer on top of Lucid to bring media measurement to life for our clients, as well as working on some of the cookieless, tagless integrations, TV integrations, folks leveraging our APIs for their measurement, really all the new and shiny things in the media measurement space.
I do love how Laura said, I convinced her in one evening. That's so nice, because it was one of the hardest sales I've ever had to give in my entire life. And I think it culminated over a couple of weeks at a Thai restaurant for lunch when I finally got her to, because for some reason, as we all know, anyone who's ever been to New Orleans, sometimes you just get stuck in a cab for way too long to go maybe 1 mile. And that cab ride took forever. And that was my the moment where I convinced her to join up. So thank you, though, for making it seem like it was one evening.
What I find amazing is that, Laura, you're such a natural salesperson now. It seems like you've been doing this forever. But I recognize that moment when you weren't sure if you wanted to cross over into the dark side of sales anywhere, right?
Yeah. Well, to his credit, Andy Ellis asked me in my first Federated Sample interview why I wasn't there for a sales role. So I guess I might have been the last person to know. Sales is a dirty word in my mind, but it's worked out.
Well, let's talk a little bit about media measurement. I don't know if everyone in our audience might know exactly what we mean by media measurement. So, Laura, maybe it makes sense for you just to walk through what that is in terms of a product generally and specifically at Lucid and the value it provides to a customer.
Sure, absolutely. So as Kevin kind of alluded, at first we thought we could just add in some tag data, get some exposed sample, and that would be life-changing. Our philosophy's really evolved since then. We service the media industry in a couple different ways. Last summer, we released our impact measurement dashboard, which gives real-time brand lift insights for digital campaigns to our customers. So they get daily stats.
Yeah. If I'm an actual, a brand owner running a campaign, what does it actually mean? What am I actually getting? What's the value there?
Yeah. So, what our customers are measuring is upper funnel lifts in things like awareness or consideration. If you see a Lucid ad in the, online, like, are you more likely to remember that brand name? Are you more likely to consider purchasing from Lucid in the future? How favorable do you feel about Lucid? Those types of KPIs. So it's really like brand-based messaging that isn't tied to like a click or a purchase or a credit card sign up. It's really like what's known in the, media industry as upper funnel, which is more like, the words Lucid really big, or like, let's get knowing, a tagline, something like that helps the brand get their name out there.
So the unique proposition I'm hearing that Lucid provides is really access to that audience to tell you what your customers or non-customers think, feel about your brand itself.
Sure. And I think the real value that we're providing is our scale. So we're able to get cuts on the 4 different creatives you're running or the different tactics that might be in market. Maybe you're running only in the city of New York and trying to reach women 18 to 34. Those are all things that we can measure, whereas traditionally agencies or advertisers haven't been able to get results for those kind of niche, narrow campaigns. So I think that's a big value add as well.
Excellent. And you mentioned the impact measurement dashboard. So that seems like a big release for us. Huh? What was special about that for us?
Yeah, it was huge. I think one thing that had always been, and Kevin can speak to this too, we kind of joked about pixie dust. Like we were selling this idea of survey respondents. They answered the questions, but we didn't really have a measurement product. We didn't have this survey taker said X and the result was Y. We had the data, but we didn't have something on top of it that kind of like put it all into a nice box. So the dashboard was really our solution to that. It we stood the whole thing up in, I want to say, less than 6 months, which is crazy in terms of a major product launch. And we've been iterating ever since. But it was really a response to the idea that our clients were running campaigns and they weren't finding out if they were good or bad till 4 weeks after the campaign ended. You can't really do a lot with that data. So our goal was to make things more optimizable, more real time, so that clients could say, oh, people really hate that blue ad. Let's move budget to the red ad, for example.
So Kevin, that seems like a real aha, is that speed element. We talked about scale a little bit, the ability to narrowly target different cuts, but it sounds like speed of return of data is also really important to the success of this product.
Yeah, and in our case at Lucid, the discovery was, scale begets speed, or speed begets sale. I don't really do begets too well, but one or the other. The thing that happened was, I remember my first campaign I brought on board. It was a niche audience, IT decision makers, and I brought it back from the agency in San Francisco, and I said, all right, look, I'm familiar with this space. I'm familiar with all this. I was like, we're going to have to, we're going to have a hard time getting this audience, right? So what I want you to do is just no quotas, keep that thing open, and let's get as many as we can when we launch. And I came back on Monday, and we completed the entirety of the quota in 2 days, right? And so that scale, and we control the speed at which we can get completed interviews for our clients. And so in the case for marketers who want to get results quickly, so that they can start optimizing the campaign in flight, as Laura mentioned, it can happen. We can scale, basically turn the dial on how many completed interviews and how many results they get and what data they get, how quickly they get it. And it's all predicated on that scale. And so what we see now is that, we'll get maybe half of the completed interviews required for the campaign in the first 1/3 of the campaign, so that the final 2/3 of the campaign, they're making major decisions on flighting, whether it is choosing one creative over another, whether choosing a group of publishers or sites where the actual ads are being placed. If one is underperforming, they can push more to the one that is performing well. And so with that scale becomes that speed, and it has been key differentiators for us from the very start. And as Laura mentioned, we started out with basically the components of a media measurement platform. We had all of the inputs, the heavy lifting, right? We had the ad operations, we'd tag campaigns, we'd match the exposures, and we bring the respondents, and that would create the data set. And so for a long time, we had, research savvy partners who would take this information and tell their own story. And we still do that, right? You still have this ability to provide, a lot of data to enhance and perform, fuel custom media measurement programs. And then over the last year, we launched our first baked-in software-based solution, a UI with a dashboard that allows people to see the results in real time. So I use the word, it's been a very evolutionary tale for me here at Lucid throughout my whole career, but it's true. We took what we had in 2015, which is we had the largest respondent platform in the world, still do, and we matched digital exposure to that platform in real time. And what we have, we just had expose and control sample. You can ask any question you want to these respondents. They're ready, willing, and able to go. And we still have that capability to be custom. But now that we have a tighter end-to-end solution, it's really opened the doors in the media industry to different types of clients. Right. So folks that don't have in-house research elements, folks who want to connect with us via integration, work from platform to platform, and just be, Lucid being the engine behind a media platform's upper funnel media measurement process. It's been a very transitional journey, so to speak, for what we've accomplished.
Well, it sounds like that speed allows for a different type of behavior from the brand, from the customer, in terms of how they can react to that data while a campaign is still in flight. And I'm wondering how customers react. How often do customers come in and actually change things based upon new data in the moment? Or there's still the old behavior is, I've got to wait till the campaign is in, and maybe this data is what I reflect on and how to improve the next one.
Yeah, Laura's going to have a lot more detailed examples, but I'll tell you, in the first goings on when we started this, it was almost an educational process that now you can make some decisions earlier in a campaign, and it was almost as if the mindset had to shift on the client side. That as if it was a given that wouldn't be the case unless it was an extremely large campaign that had a lot of reach, and some of the more traditional providers of media measurement could do that. So that was the first steps, was like, you can do this now. You can actually do this. And I know we work with agencies and publishers and ad tech platforms, and I know Laura's got some examples of the here's and nows of how they actually do that. But the first step was like, this is available to you now, and that was eye-opening for them.
Yeah, Kevin's absolutely right. I think, I always approach it from like, you don't have to optimize. Like, you have the data, you can watch it, you can sit back for a quarter or 6 weeks and, see how things are going. But I think once you put that data in people's hands, and especially if they have control over where the media is being spent or what's running precisely, like, they're going to want to make changes when they see how it's performing. So I think one of the most exciting things we've done is we've built all of this entire platform is API based. All those APIs are external. So you can pull those results into your own platform to see your results alongside your media buys. And I think that is really the place where we're going to see the industry move to, is being able to see the results and see the levers that you can pull, and down the line, maybe even have those two speak to each other in a programmatic sense.
Well, that sounds like a tee up for the big integration, which is Trade Desk, right? So this has been your baby for a while. So why don't you talk about that relationship, that integration, and the value it provides to our customers?
Sure. I mean, Trade Desk was really the customer that came to us and was like, we want this, and we want this via API. And I have to give our product and our engineering teams a huge hand here. All the APIs we built, 1 year ago were internal. So they took maybe 6 weeks and stood everything up to make those APIs be accessible by external customers, to be able to be used for both reporting, so pulling our calculated results into your own platform, and setup. So the Trade Desk integration is really cool because Trade Desk customers never have to speak to Lucid. They can order a campaign, they can put in their brand name, they can put in their competitors, pick their survey questions, and launch without ever talking to me. I always joke, I'll be on the beach somewhere, and the platforms will be setting up surveys for me.
That's
yes,
right.
I'll be at Jazz Fest, not pushing buttons. But it's really powerful. I mean, it's a really exciting way to kind of like bring our product to the masses. It also, the Trade Desk long-term vision is maybe we can make this optimizable. Maybe we can make a button that says optimized to brand awareness or optimized to purchase consideration. There's a lot of really exciting things that can be done there. And I made it my personal goal to try to get 5 customers on API by the end of the year. And I'd say we have 8+ who are interested already, and it's May. So I think it's a really, really powerful tool. And, I'm glad I set low goals for myself.
Well, if I've learned anything about Laura, you tend to blow through the goals you set for yourself. So maybe either you're underestimating your skills, or you're trying to, sandbag a little bit on expectations. But either way, it's pretty impressive. Not only the Trade Desk deal, but to know that so many other API integrations are in the hopper. In terms of customers, what kinds of behaviors or stories do you have about what they're changing? Have you seen customers who didn't know they could move so quickly now change what they do with their campaigns or how they're purchasing in light of speed and scale that Lucid provides?
Yeah, I think the big COVID advertising story was CTV. I think I was chained to this TV. I'm sure you guys felt the same way, watching whatever could keep me occupied in April and May of last year. And so I think the real success story across the advertising space was CTV, but that also ties really nicely into Lucid. We have great scale at actually measuring CTV campaigns. Our technology picks up household IP address when an ad fires, and then we're able to match that back to respondents in our universe and ask them survey questions. So we work with a lot of the leading streaming providers and apps and platforms. I think their scale has shown them that they have to be able to make things easier and more standardized and more turnkey. Because when you go from 50 advertisers who want brand lift studies to 100 advertisers that want brand lift studies, you have to work with a partner who can scale alongside you. So I've been really impressed with the way that some of our clients have kind of moved as this ecosystem has changed.
And any of those integrations, are those announceable yet, or you just have 8 in the hopper that are under the?
More to come.
More to come. Fair enough.
Yeah, I've got a standard of we've got to get a complete via API before we can announce. So
Fair
It's
enough.
like a knock on wood.
Fair enough. Well, it seems like as we all know, the media landscape is changing dramatically. You talked about CTVs becoming more and more important for measurement, but in general, and then of course, you've got the whole cookieless future. You've got Apple coming in and saying things about maids. So how do you see the Lucid approach to the scenario where identities become a very different story very quickly in the media ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I mean, every conversation I have this year goes back to cookieless, I think.
It does
I
it
feel
now.
like
It's a hot topic, huh?
everywhere we go, cookieless. I think Lucid's in a really good spot for cookieless because we are a software company. We already had a huge engineering team. We have product. We have resources that were able to help us start prepping for this well in advance of any announcements. So, last year we rolled out a server with, maybe I shouldn't say their name, but a major online purchasing platform. And so we had already gone through that whole ecosystem. We'd already worked through all the challenges that we saw via that server-to-server integration. And our team was able to learn a ton about what it looks like to actually onboard data without a pixel. So that really helped us lay the framework. And then our team spent Q4 and Q1 of this year standing that up further. So we've had probably 50 plus interviews with different publishers or partners, platforms to learn what their plans are for the future. And we realized that there was no one turnkey solution. Everyone isn't going to go server to server. Everyone isn't going to go ID framework. So we had to be able to accept a bunch of different types of data and make it feel like one type. So we didn't want there to be, we store server to server data over here. We store pixel data over here. We store unified ID data over here. We wanted to make sure that all fit together so that we could do holistic measurement across the partners. So we built out that platform. And then right now what we're working on is more server-to-server integrations. Those are typically with platforms or publishers that have that logged in consented data. They already know, this is their email, and we're going to do a sync with Lucid, and we're going to match that together. We're also planning to join frameworks like Unified ID 2.0 that the Trade Desk rolled out, LiveRamp ATS. There's some others, and we're kind of just playing along. We also know there's a lot of partners that are still going to accept pixels. Pixels are still going to work on CTV. They're still going to work in app. There's just a whole lot of different methods that we're going to receive exposure data in the future. So our team has done a really good job of kind of building out a flexible framework to support that.
Yeah, so flexibility has always been our calling card for everything we've done in this media landscape. From our first product rollout or service rollout, the idea of being flexible has always been a key contributor to our differentiation. It's the same thing in this environment as well. The idea of how we're going to match exposure, how we're going to match data set to hours to overlay. We have to be flexible, and that was the learning we had for every firm, like the integration we talked about was Trade Desk, or that major media and purchasing entity that we talked about earlier as well. They were different types of integrations, and Laura hit the nail on the head. There are going to be some media outlets, publishers who are going to continue to ride on pixels for a very long time. So our approach has been, we have to take all of these different types of integrations and data matches, and then turn that into something that looks, smells, feels like a single source on our platform. So we're ingesting all these different data points in different ways, but when they get here, what it's doing is the same. It's matching this media behavior to an actual individual respondent, and then the power of what that respondent can tell a brand is exponentially larger than if it was not known. So it's a pretty exciting approach, but it's again, it goes back to us, having that calling card of being flexible in our approach.
Well, one of the big issues in the media space, but also globally, is around data privacy and consent. How have our customers reacted to our first party framework and also our consent framework in terms of how this plays out? Is this a value to them, or what's the reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I think the good news is that Lucid had already built the framework out to be compliant with GDPR and CCPA. So from that standpoint, we already have consent. We already have respondents opting in and giving us permission for the types of data access we need. I think there's, to say it nicely, I think there's maybe a little bit of a everybody's calling it privacy, but really these are kind of changes that are meant to kind of tighten up the ecosystems and the walled gardens. That's my polite way of saying that. But I think that equating the future landscape with privacy changes is a little, I don't know, off base. I think that a lot of the platforms and partners are now going to match on email instead of on cookie. Would I rather have a cookie or my email shared? I mean, as a user. So I think it's a little disingenuous, but I do think that we are in a really good space to continue, meeting that privacy standard that has been set forth by law. I think we've done a really good job of navigating the privacy space, particularly around, right to sell, right to, be forgotten in Europe. There's a whole bunch of different changing landscapes and laws around this right now. So I think we sit in a really good spot. It's just a matter of all these other platforms figuring out how they can share data with us in a privacy compliant manner.
Well, 2020 was a fast moving year for media. We definitely launched our own products. We definitely moved quickly on a number of fronts. 2021 is no different. A lot of change, a lot of speed. What can we talk about is directly on the horizon for our measurement business that our customers can start looking forward to? What are the next things that are really going to start changing the capacity, the capability, and the value to our customers?
I think from a broad perspective, I think Laura mentioned upper funnel earlier, and that's what brand lift is. It's part of the, if you look at the metrics that are measured in the upper funnel, it's identifying and understanding the audience with which you want to target your advertising to, and then what are the effects of branding on those individuals. That usually requires understanding the individual, the target individual, as well as getting some input from them, a portion of them. What I'm excited about is all of the infrastructure and all the things that we're building, and the fact that we are a tech platform organization. I'm looking forward to dabbling into the world of down funnel, which is the idea of consideration and sales, right? And so that's the big picture for me, is like, how do we keep moving towards that in the near term? Keeping with that idea of how do we take advantage of the growth and the things we've done successfully here so far. Is there are a lot of channels right now that are measured in the upper funnel world that are measured archaically or very old school, and one of those is television itself, in more traditional television, not so much CTV. The utilization of survey techniques that have been around for decades as the gold standard for how you achieve understanding of a television campaign's performance or a radio campaign's performance. I think we can advance that. Right. So if we start syncing to multiple data platforms, and we can actually ingest household TV data, we can ingest subscriber data for magazines, and apply that kind of technology and that learning and understanding to our respondent pool, we're kind of advancing the game a little bit and having a much more finite understanding of whether or not an exposure took place in what we're considering to be offline channels. So that's the broad perspective for me, is how do we make the upper funnel measurement even more inclusive to other types of media channels, and then how do we turn the eye of Sauron down to down funnel and modernize that a bit. And I think that's yeah, exactly, that is the it's been my hill to die on for most of my career since I got into media measurements. How do I get, and I've been a part of programs where we tried to do it in the past, and it just the one thing that didn't work out is there was enough scale of respondents to make it work, right? So the fact that we're a tech-based organization, the fact that we can link our respondent network to multiple data sets in real time, I really think we can achieve something special down funnel in the near future as well.
And what are you excited about, Laura?
What am I excited about? I'm really excited for us to have a true TV product. I think this is something that we've heard over and over and over again from our agency and brand partners, is that TV measurements too slow. There's no scale. There's no, ability to make decisions about the next quarter or the next half year anywhere near the time you would need that data. So I think building out a platform that helps clients make those decisions is really important. And I think getting that cross media look at to TV plus digital is something that we're uniquely positioned to solve for. So very excited about that. I'm also, we have lots of fun new features and widgets to the existing product is exciting to some people, but there's a lot of outstanding feature requests that our clients have been asking for that are in development right now. So things like a quick look into which demographics are performing the best on your campaign, or a high level, these KPIs are the best and these are the age groups that are the best. Really that like kind of high level clickable view into, what's really moving the needle for your brand.
Well, it's exciting. I want to switch gears. Kevin, you wanted to jump in?
I honestly, one of the weird things about working at Lucid, especially in this measurement practice, is that we usually identify client need and then build a solution for them, whether it is an end-to-end solution like our dashboard, or whether it's partnering with different types of data sets or analytic organizations to do something that an agency or a brand has been looking to accomplish for years. And so now we suffer with, okay, you did that, can you do this? But so we don't lack for our ingrown, like we have this client list that brings us ideation sessions just about every phone call we have with them. Mm-hmm. This is a need. This is something we have been lacking for so long. And usually it's around the speed at which they can get results in the upper funnel metric environment, or whether they can sync upper and lower funnel metrics, when it comes to a campaign measurement solution. So it's exciting because, I think on the weekly we're getting, requests from our client partners about what we can do to solve more of their problems. So that's why we've invested so heavily in our engineering program. That's why we built out our integrations practice. That's why Laura Manning now leads our strategic partnership team here at Lucid. It's a very exciting time because we have proven in the past that we can adapt and coordinate, some advanced approaches to things. And now they say thank you but this every time we talk to them. So it's a very interesting time for us. It's exciting too. But so the horizon is filled with ideas about what we can do to accomplish some of these higher-arching goals.
Honestly, Kevin, that's why I enjoy working at Lucid, period, is that the opportunity of what we can do continues to expand. We're not limited to one known solved state of affairs. There's always the next product. There's always the next build, always the next customer request, which keeps things innovative and fast moving, except customers always want that next thing, which is exciting, but also challenging because every company has limited resources to focus on all the opportunities in front of them.
But our product dev team can sleep sometime in the near future, just not now. That's all.
Just not during Jazz Fest. We're going to switch gears to some questions I ask a lot of different guests, so you also get them. But I'll break it up a little bit. Laura, I'd like to learn more about your very first job that you earned a paycheck with, and what you learned at that job that you still use today.
Well, you guys are going to laugh, but I was selling jeans at Buckle in the Knoxville, Tennessee mall as my first job. And, it's funny now, Kevin jokes about this too. You said I have natural sales skills, but it's like I've just been avoiding it since I was 16. I don't know. But I learned a lot there. I was on commission, which was the first time I realized how great it was to be in charge of, your own earnings, your own, what happens at the end of the day, especially when, you're 16 and you have a lot of, fast fashion and, CDs to buy back in the day. And it was, I learned a lot. I think it was one of the first times that I'd had a job, like I'd babysat, I'd, done little tasks. It was one of the first things where it's like I got to interact with people from all sorts of different walks of life, to solve problems, to, obviously the problems were a little different than what I'm solving now. It was like, my jeans don't fit, I need to return them. My daughter needs a dress for something tonight, but it was great. I mean, I love working with people. I love, that kind of like fast paced, always on the go. And I think mall retail sales really reflect that well. It's Kevin's like cracking up, but it's like, I can't be idle. I'm always on the go. I'm always reading something new. I'm always, diving into a new project. And I think that sort of environment was very fitting for me at the time. But that was it.
I will double click. You've always been diving into the new thing, right?
Yeah.
You're always like the first up. I'll go do that. Me.
Yeah. I was going to say they ran a sales contest to see who in the company across the US could sell this new most expensive jean in our store that was just like plain dark denim, like nothing exciting about it. And this was in the era of like True Religion, when everything had like crazy stuff on the back pockets and, low rise, whatever. And I was like, great, I love a contest and this has money associated with it. And I crushed it. I sold, I think, the third most in the entire North America of these like pretty boring jeans to, dudes shopping in the store. So I guess I've always been goal oriented. I don't know.
Now we know how to motivate you. That's good. That's good. Kevin, the question I have for you is about feedback. In points of our career, we get hard feedback, honest feedback, things we may not want to hear but need to have heard. So my question to you is, what's the best feedback you've ever received? It could also be the worst feedback. They're oftentimes the same.
There's been moments in my life where I've realized that the first thing that hits you when someone gives you some feedback about your performance that isn't congratulatory or accolades is defensiveness, shutting down, and just the wrong reaction, right? And so to cut through those the natural inclination to do that, some of these critiques have to be extremely critical and true, right? And so they've happened throughout my life. The first real job I had was at an Exxon station at 14 years old. And I quickly moved up the ladder from pumping gas to actually doing brake changes and things like that. And the attention to detail required when the vehicle that you're fixing or doing something to might actually, be needed for someone's safety. You can't slack off. And I wasn't a very good mechanic. It showed. There was one day where a gentleman came back with the car that I put did his brake job for him, and he came back and it was dusk and his brake wheel wells were glowing red because I just tightened up too much, right? So I learned a lot of valuable lessons. But that particular interaction where the car came back, the owner of the service station just lit into me. It was the first time in my life I was like, oh my God, someone doesn't just love me, and I'm not just getting congratulations for being me. And so that journey took me into the military when, it's a very honest environment in the military if something goes awry or something goes wrong. And so the lesson for me was you just can't allow yourself to be defensive in those environments. You have to understand the situation. You let the anger come after you're done with the interaction or the disappointment in yourself. So there's been I've had a lot of interesting, jobs and in my work life, right? I've been in research for nearly 20 years now, but before that I did a lot. And so now in these professional environments, especially when I'm working with clients, I'm very open-minded to when they're telling me something. And the number one goal is for client retention for our team, and I preach is that we're humans, and as humans we're going to make mistakes, and these systems are built by humans, these products are built by humans, so they will have errors in them too. And client retention and those relationships are built upon the trust that when something does go wrong, you will make it right and you will fix it. And so a long time ago, I put to bed the idea of being defensive in those environments, but it took some pretty dramatic experiences to get there.
That's awesome. The last question for both of you, and I'll let Kevin go first on this, is simple. What did your mother teach you?
Wasn't ready for that. I'm admitting that I haven't watched a lot of the podcasts to date. Sorry, I've been too busy working for you, sir.
It's okay. I meant for it to be a surprise, so you're welcome.
My mom's a very interesting individual, and in a great way. And I think she has taught me to be bold, to take chances, take risks, live life adventurously, to travel, to see the world. And all of these things doesn't represent who she is. And so it was almost her realization of some of what maybe her fears or things that have held her from doing that. She did not want that to happen to me. And so through her own experiences, she created life lessons that were, take chances, live life. There's only one of them. And I think that's why I had, so much happen in my early years before I even entered the research space. I had seen so much and done so much because I was always pushed to do so.
Mom. Sorry, Laura. Your go.
All right. I'll twist it a little and put both my parents together on this one. But my parents are both doctors. They had me when they were residents. They worked and I mean, they still work all the time. And I think they instilled in me like the value of what you can do if you work hard and, do your best and that sort of thing. They, both overcome a lot of circumstances in their lives to be very successful, to, move to Knoxville, Tennessee, the big city. And, I think not only did they, really model that out for me, but they also made it clear to me throughout my life that I could do anything I wanted to do. And they still reiterate that, they finally have accepted I'm in sales and I'm not a doctor or a scientist or an astronaut, but, I think it's, they're very clear that, you're smart, you have all the opportunity in the world and you need to take advantage of it. And I think that has been a really important lesson for me over time.
Well, Laura, salespeople could be heroes too.
Sure.
I just think Laura has sales ability, but there really is, I don't know what she's going to be when she goes up at this point, because I think one day we'll all be working for her. But just because you have sales in your blood doesn't mean that's who you are. But Patrick, if I could, in case the off chance that my mother learns what a podcast is and sees this, I also learned to make my bed and eat my vegetables and other assorted things that have made me better as a human. I need to get that out there.
Fair enough.
You're in the air.
Mom may find out about the podcast, right? Well, with that, I think we should be able to wrap up. I've really enjoyed this, Kevin and Laura. It's always exciting to see the growth of the business through someone else's eyes. And so what I've enjoyed most about the day was hearing the story that, of course, I lived parts of as well. But honestly, I can't thank both of you enough for making it real. None of this would have happened without you. And a lot of other people. We can mention some names like Elliot and Jim and others that without their assistance, without their help, this would not be here today. And that is not lost on me. And so thank you for making Lucid and our measurement business what it is today.
I'm happy to be here. It's been really, really exciting. Not often do you get the chance to join something that is purely entrepreneurial, which is what our media measurement business has been. But it's right next to a very serious and productive and growing existing business is what Lucid is. So it's been a whirlwind. I cannot believe June 1st is 6 years.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. It wasn't that long ago. I was in a Philadelphia hotel. You were at a conference and we were feeling each other out on whether or not this was going to work. And that seems like it was yesterday. It's crazy.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It does, or you're busy.
Well, with that, thanks everyone for listening to this guinea pig episode of Through Your Looking Glass, where we had some enjoyable conversation with Lucid employees about our fastest growing and most interesting, a lot of the times, part of our business in media measurement. So thanks for joining, and we'll talk again soon.
Be sure to subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. For information on ResTech, our complete list of episodes, and more, visit luc.id/lookingglass.